come to the rink and try and win championships, and that's what it's all about. When you look from the outside and you watch this team, I know we're going to have a real good, solid hockey team this year.
Welcome back to Fireside Rangers. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host right here, Eric Wilson. Today, we're not too happy. We're going to talk about the New York Rangers, who just can't stop losing games right now. Losing streak continues. A 3-0 shutout loss against the freaking Islanders of all teams. We're a little bit annoyed, and we want to place some blame on some specific players right now, the players in the top six. The point output from the top six through 8 games has not been enough. We need more from the top six in these lines in the upcoming games. The New York Rangers, again, that top six has been really disappointing to start the year. How can they turn it around? What do they need to do differently? We're about to dive into all of that in this episode of Fireside Rangers. But before we dive into all of that good stuff, Eric, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I like the enthusiasm you brought to the intro right there, even though this is not a fun topic to discuss.
Yeah, I gotta make things fun when we're not talking about something fun. Fortunately, we're talking about poor performances. And so the Rangers, what's the Rangers, Eric, right now, or record right now, Eric?
3-2-2.
3-2-2. Not too hot. Not the start to the season that we were hoping for. Honestly, first couple games, Rangers were looking pretty good, especially that win over the Lightning to start the year. But since then, few disappointing losses, overtime loss as well. And they've been playing some crappy teams, and they've been playing really crappy against those teams, and they're losing games. So how do we fix that? How do we start picking up some wins? Well, the top six needs to start performing better. You're seeing a very lackluster performance from pretty much everybody on the first line, in my opinion. I mean, Mika Zibanejad's had a couple good games, but he's really started to falter in recent matchups. And Kaapo Kakko with only 2 points on the year, Chris Kreider with only 4 on the year so far, and then Zibanejad with 8, but it's just not what we were looking for. What are your thoughts on that first line right now?
I mean, it's not been looking the best. Obviously, I think Kreider needs to start performing more after putting up 50-something goals last season. We kind of expected him to have a little bit of a dip. You're not going to repeat 50-goal seasons, but, we didn't expect this much of a dip. It's been kind of disappointing. He hasn't put up that many points. I think he said 4 points in 8 games played so far. I mean, that's not horrible. That's on pace for 40 points this season. But for a first-line guy who's as good as Kreider, he needs to be a little bit better. And then the thing with Zibanejad is, he has 8 points in 8 games, his point per game, which, it sounds really good on paper. But the first game of the season, he had a 4-point night. So,
right.
It's he had one really good game. And then after that, it's kind of just been really disappointing from him. So don't let those numbers fool you. He needs to be more consistent as he's going.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think we just totally need more from Kreider. I mean, I feel like sometimes he kind of disappears in these games. And Zibanejad, as you mentioned, really hot start to the year, but past few games, somewhat non-existent. He just hasn't been playing up to the level, the standards that he set for himself in the earlier portion of the season. I know we're still in the early portion of the season, but taking a look at those first few games, Zibanejad, hot start, set the bar really high, hasn't reached that bar again, unfortunately. But there's one player on that first line that you didn't mention that I want to talk about in depth, and that's Kaapo Kakko. Now, he only has 2 points, but I'm actually impressed with the way Kakko's been playing. I know that's kind of we're kind of ragging on the top six here, discussing why they're costing the Rangers some games. But Kakko, I know his point output isn't that great, but I feel like he's going to catch fire soon. He's playing well. He's got a lot of control of the puck. He's making plays. He's just not converting them into points. But I feel like the points will come. Eventually, He'll start converting. And when that happens, that's the boost that the Rangers lines need. That's when the top six will start to take shape and hopefully win us some games. I think Kaapo Kakko is kind of an X factor here and could be a catalyst to success going in the future. But what are your thoughts on Kakko's performance for the first 8 games?
2 points in 8 games. It's not good whatsoever. But I don't really blame Kakko. I think he's on the first line. He's the least person to blame, even though he has the least amount of points, mainly because he's not a pure goal scorer. He's more of a playmaker type of guy or a grinder, skating around the ice. He makes incredible moves. He had that one really good move against the Islanders 2 days ago, but the problem is it's just Zibanejad and Kreider aren't finishing. He can get them the puck. He can make all these great moves, but he's not going to get points until the rest of his line can start scoring a little more. That's not his job, really. That's more of Kreider and Zibanejad are the goal scorers on that line, really. And, as someone mentioned in our live stream we did before the game, Kreider and Zibanejad kind of do the same moves every time. And, teams are kind of catching on that. And they need a little bit more creativity in their game, try something a little different, switch it up. Maybe Zibanejad doesn't need to just rip a one-timer every single time like he's Alex Ovechkin. Maybe Kreider doesn't need to stand in front of the net the entire game. Switch it up. They're good hockey players. They're on the first line for a reason. So I don't really blame Kakko. he's the most creative guy on that first line. It's the other two that need to really step it up.
I actually completely agree with that. I feel like he has been very creative. He's been making plays. The plays just aren't getting finished. And again, like that one that you mentioned against the Islanders where he pretty much skated around the entire defense, put up a shot, it got saved, but it was such a great opportunity that he created pretty much single-handedly.
Yeah.
That was all by himself.
I love it when the NHL Instagram posted that highlight as a Ilya Sorokin highlight, and the entire comment section was like, this is more of a Capocaco highlight right here. Like,
he skated around like three guys and then put up a decent shot. It was very impressive play, and I feel like we've been seeing those impressive plays from him throughout the first 8 games. They're just not being converted to points right now. But again, he continues to make those plays. Eventually, they're going to turn into points, and he's going to have that breakout season we're hoping for. But again, the other guys on the first line, we need more from them. You're right. Mika Zibanejad becoming very predictable. Chris Kreider also becoming predictable. But when you're taking a look at that second line, who stands out to you as the guy that really needs to step up? Of course, it's not Artemi Panarin. He's been dominant, 12 points in 8 games. But those other guys, Trocheck, Lafreniere, who needs to step up the most?
I think it's mainly Lafreniere. Trocheck, as we mentioned a couple of times, he's slowly improving. You know, he's on a new team, new environment. And we didn't expect him to come firing right out the gate and being a superstar. But he's getting there. I think he's at, 6 points?
Yeah, he has 6 points in 8 games.
That's great. And I'm sure most of those points come from Panarin points as well. But it's really just Lafreniere that I think is the problem on that second line. He's been kind of non-existent out there. Lafreniere only has 3 points. We expected a breakout season from him, and it's not looking like it's going to happen this season, you know?
Yeah, it's been a slow start to the year for Lafreniere. I mean, I guess there's a chance he starts to pick it up as the season progresses, but is this a situation where, Eric, I'm going to throw out like a hypothetical for you. I know he's injured right now, but he was playing well when he was on the ice, and when he comes back, do you want to see Philip Hedl move up into the second line and drop Lafreniere back down to the third?
See, I wouldn't be something that I would hate. It would just be a little hard to work out the kinks because obviously Lafreniere doesn't play center. So then if we were to move Hedl up, we'd have to find someone else to play center, which I guess you could put Barclay Goodrow on there and then keep Ryan Carpenter on the fourth. But yeah, no, like if we could work that out, it's an option that I would consider. I would obviously want to give Lafreniere a little bit more time to really get used to this new line and try to see if he can improve his game. But if it continues to not work, then yeah, we need to change something.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's time for Gerard Gallant to start getting a little bit creative, maybe testing out some different things on really all of the lines in general, especially those third and fourth lines. I know those were the lines that were producing the points a couple nights ago when we actually had points to produce. But in general, that top 6 is just – it's kind of just faltering right now, and it's been very stagnant. And I'm just curious to see if Gerard Gallant makes any lines changes to see if he can get a spark out of it.
Yeah, I mean – It's tough to say because obviously something does need to change. I don't know if it's just switching up the style of play or the lines altogether. But the injuries that we have right now and the depth, it's not looking like there's that many players that we could move up into the top 6 and really see an improvement, you know? Like you're not going to put Ryan Reeves up on the second line or anything. You can maybe see Goudreau up there, but then that kind of leaves the bottom 6 without really anyone. So we're in a tough position right now, kind of just really waiting for Hedl to come back. Which should be, I think, in like 3 games. I know he was almost cleared to make this road trip that we're going on this weekend, but last second they said, no, we're going to keep him. But Kravtsov is back. He's cleared the play. That's the next video. Me complaining about him for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So I won't get into it.
Hasn't been too impressive from Vitaly Kravtsov so far this year. I mean, we were hoping, again, a breakout year potentially. That return hasn't really come to play.
See, it's like it's not even a name that I would want to consider moving up into the top 6 to make any changes. So.
Yeah, me neither. But before we, kind of move into our closing thoughts here, I want to ask you once again about Vincent Trocheck. You kind of gave your initial thoughts on him, but marquee signing for the Rangers this offseason, replacing he who shall not be named as the 2C. Trocheck stepping in again, 6 points in 8 games, not terrible. A lot of that probably inflated by Artemi Panarin's dominant play through 8 games, but what are your thoughts on Trocheck? How do you feel? Confident that he's a solid 2C, and where do you think he ends up, finishing as the season progresses?
Yeah. I mean, what I'll definitely say is, I already said it, he's getting used to a new team, playing with new players. So, yeah, there's a little bit of an adjustment period. But he's played through that adjustment period very well. Even at this stage in his game, I mean, he is still an improvement from you-know-who. But I think he's going to continue to get better. Panarin's already putting up a bunch of points, and those points are going to slowly filter into his game too, and they'll both be putting up goals and assists together. And then maybe Lafreniere will join in. But I'm impressed with Trocheck so far. Not exactly what we've expected just yet, but he will get there, and I'm very confident in that.
I'm confident as well. I think we've seen the flashes. We've seen the high-level plays there. It just needs to be brought out more consistently.
Yeah, I guess my final thought on that is just out of all the concerns we've seen in the top six, I don't think that the Trocheck problem is anywhere on the danger level.
What would you say the top concern in the top six would be? I'm going to go with Lafreniere. I feel like he's just non-existent sometimes.
Yeah, that's a good option. Or I would just say Kreider and Zibanejad not scoring. They're holding back Kakko from this breakout season that we all know he's on the brink of having.
Which is absurd. You would think it would be the other way around. You would think that those guys would be carrying the first line and Kakko would be, struggling to have that breakout. But I don't know. I guess it's funny how the tables turn. But before we wrap up, I'll just ask you, what is the key to success? How does the top six turn things around? And how can they be, how can they stop disappointing us basically going forward?
They just need to switch up their style of play, stop relying on the same static game that you've been playing the last couple of games. It's clearly that it's not working, there's something's got to change, and that's pretty much it,
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. As you mentioned earlier, as we both mentioned earlier, the Zibanejad one-timers and the Kreider just kind of waiting in front of the net. Yeah. Time to switch up that style of play.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll see if the Rangers take our advice. Sometimes they like to listen to us. Maybe they'll take something from this. Maybe they'll show this episode to Gerard Gallant. But we'll see. Hopefully the Rangers can come back out here, start picking up some wins. It's getting a little bleak right now. I know some Rangers fans are getting very disappointed and very vocal on social media, but I think it's too soon to hit the panic button. Top six, yes, it's struggling. It's disappointing, but they will turn it around. These are the Rangers' most talented players, so we'll see how it goes. But, of course, make sure to subscribe to Fireside Rangers. Leave a like if you did enjoy this episode and comment down below what are your thoughts on the New York Rangers' top 6 through 8 games. We'll catch you on the next one. Have a good one, and
let's go Rangers. Artemi Panarin. What was the actual score? Yep, 3-0.
He shoots. He's